It turns out that Americans overestimate their chances of dying from COVID by 5,000%. That's a lot of fear. That's a huge amount of fear that people do not need to be living with. So let's go through some of the details. So this information came from a study by Franklin Templeton Investments. You can see the title of it, Franklin Templeton Gallup Economics of Recovery Study. So they polled 10,000 people, and since they're an investment group, they need to identify risk and fear so they can move forward with their investment strategies. So this is what they found out. Now, by the way, what they found out was basically, you can see here, the results are nothing short of stunning. So here are fear of health consequences. So basically fear of dying from COVID by age bracket. This is in the study that you can look at if you go and get it. So green is actual deaths. Blue is fear of dying. So people who are 65 and older, their fear is equal to their risk. People who are under 65, their fear far outweighs their risk of dying. So if you're living in fear like this, stress kicks in, and when stress kicks in, it turns off the prefrontal cortex, which allows one to think rationally. So people live in this constant state of fear. And I'll be doing future videos on that to show you the pathways. So this comes from the study. Americans believe that people age 44 and younger account for 30% of total deaths, actual figure 2.7. Americans overestimate the risk of dying from COVID for people by age 24 and younger by a factor of 50. And these same people think that the risk for people age 65 and older is half of what it actually is. People think it's only 40% when it's actually 80%. Again, these results are nothing short of stunning. So what does a factor of 50 mean if you turn it into percentage? So they overestimate risk of death by a factor of 50. That is 5,000%. Overestimation of risk of dying from COVID. Unbelievable. So you should ask yourself, why is that the case? And of course, the answer is because of the inaccurate information that we are given by the news, government, and then of course it's perpetuated in social media where it metastasizes into just a cesspool of fear, absolute fear. So here's a study that was published in the journal Nature. Nature is a well-respected scientific journal. You can see, well, it's just a two-pager. You can go get it. It's a free download. Here is the first page. You can see coronavirus is most deadly if you are old and male. This is page 2, and they give us a chart right here, which I'm going to blow up right now. There we go. So when you start to look at percentages, so infection fatality ratio, so out of 100 people 65 and older in Geneva, Switzerland, 5.6 will die. Now, 5.6%, that's what that is. So that would be 5.6 out of 100. Well, how would you do 0.14 out of 100? Difficult to do these smaller percentages. So I did it for you. Here we go. So you can see I converted the 5.6 out of 100 into 56 out of 1,000. So we have either 1,000 or 10,000. Because we have to go that high of population because the death rates are so low below the age of 65. So people who are 50 to 64, you have only, in Geneva that is, you have a 1.4 people out of 1,000 infected people will die. If you're between 20 and 49, 1 in 10,000. So Spain has the age breakdowns with more detail. So you can read them yourself, but you have to just realize once again, you can see how consistent this is. If you look at Spain, you're talking from 40 to 49, 7 out of 10,000. And this is 20 to 49 up top here, 1 out of 10,000. But right down here, you can see age 20 to 29. In Spain, 1 out of 10,000. This is not a lot of people. So you can see how brutally excessive the overestimation of risk from dying from COVID is for people under the age of 65. It is absolutely stunning how far off it is. Now, amidst all this fear, many facts about COVID have been lost, misunderstood, downplayed. I really can't say which one, but we do know this, that every country has been locked down. And there are protests about lockdown going on in every country, not just in the United States. So it's not just a US thing. It's all over the world. People are angry about being locked down. Now, one of the things about being locked down, we should have been told certain things that we should do to be more resilient and less at risk of developing an infection or severe outcome of infection. And that really should have been this right here, which I've shown before. COVID-19 is not a virus, mask, or lack of a vaccine crisis. It is an obesity/hyperglycemia crisis. Obese people are the primary COVID vectors. So you can read 1 through 6 on your own. But we do know this, due to prolonged viral shedding, quarantine in obese subjects should likely be longer than normal weight individuals. This is from like April 2020. So it turns out when they look at, because they've been able to study influenza for a while, obese people shed viruses, which means they're far more contagious. They're producing viruses, they're spreading them 100% longer than lean people. How come we don't know that? That's why the cover of this book shows you the problem. This is my new book. So this is an obese guy. Now it's also lean people, or I shouldn't say lean, I should say normal weight or slightly overweight people who are metabolically obese are equally problematic. I talked about that population in my most recent video. But you should ask yourself this question: how is it that people just think that obese people are more susceptible, as opposed to obese people actually being the primary vector? All of this, or this information that is substantiated in the scientific literature, is not talked about. So who's not talking about it? Well, let's look who's not talking about it. So how you know that Gates, Fauci, the media, and the US Congress have failed us? So did Bill Gates ever implore us to get healthy and lean while locked down? No. How about Fauci? No. How about politicians? Did they tell us to do it? No. Any news channels spend time imploring Americans to get lean and healthy so they're not spreaders of the virus and they're more resilient if infected? No. How many Democrats in Congress, how many Republicans in Congress implored us to get healthy and lean and not become COVID spreaders? Absolutely none, 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 none. So you know, it should be pretty obvious why people do not know about the obesity issue. Pretty obvious. So what can you do? Well, you can head over to Amazon and score my most recent book on the topic of immune health. So if you're overweight and you're worried about COVID, which is a reasonable concern, you should learn about how to get your weight right and then learn about all the benefits of healthy anti-inflammatory foods compared to these brutal pro-inflammatory foods right here. And if you want to get volume discounts, you can cruise over to dflame.com, where there are volume discounts available for all of the books. And of course, if you like this, you can tweet it, like the YouTube, share the information on YouTube, share videos with your friends, and you can like the D-Flame Nutrition page on Facebook if you like this information.